Welcome everyone here. I know it's a very busy day, not only for us, but for our friends in the Fourth Estate, so I appreciate everyone being here today. I am Senate Republican Leader Rob Ort, joined by members of our Republican Conference, those who are not in the hearing right now, and we are here to talk. We've unveiled, some of you have been here for multiple initiatives this conference has unveiled, talking about affordability, right, which is the big topic, and it's a big umbrella topic that covers a lot of things, whether it's energy, whether it's insurance costs, whether it's taxes. One of the obvious to me, and I'm sure to a lot of people out there when you talk about affordability, is the cost of housing. And this is not a new thing. I can say going back at least 7-8 years, maybe longer, I have noticed in upstate, Western New York, but certainly in the city, across the state, the ability to buy a home has been slipping away from a younger generation of New Yorkers. And the reason that's problematic in sort of a larger sense, I believe, is if you were to line up 10 people outside and said, tell me what the American dream is, 7 of those 10, maybe more, some part of that dream would include owning a home or owning a piece of property. Ownership. And that's the one thing that people, want to own at some point in their life. Even if they don't think they can do it, it's part of that idea of what the American dream is. And that is becoming less and less affordable for a generation of New Yorkers. And that is a problem. That is a real problem, because we've sold generations of Americans that. And if they can't get that piece of the American dream, that lies with us. And so we're here to talk about how do we make housing more affordable. Now, our colleagues, this will stand in stark contrast to what the mayor wants to do on housing. It's going to stand in stark contrast to what many of my colleagues today and some of the advocates, they only focus on either one part of the problem, or I always say they want to treat the symptom, not the disease, right? The symptom is we're going to freeze rents, right? We're going to freeze something. That's the symptom, right? Because the rents are getting expensive. But that is not addressing the root cause of why is there not as much housing being built? Why are there not enough units coming online? And the reason is because it's very expensive. In New York State, I could tell you it's probably one of the more expensive states in the country to build new housing. And we are doing things as we speak that are making it more expensive. As we speak. And so we are undermining the very effort to make housing more affordable, to make it more accessible. You're going to hear from someone today, Umberto Lopes, someone who I met a couple months ago. He first came to my purview because I saw him at an affordability roundtable. Some of you might remember we did a report that came out of the multiple affordability roundtables that we did across the state. And we did one in New York City, and no doubt that had its own flavor and its own sort of focus. Senator Chan led that roundtable, and Umberto was there, and in a very clean, unvarnished, direct way, articulated what a lot of property owners in New York City are dealing with. And what a lot of what's going on isn't working. It's not working for him, and it's not working as a result for tenants or would-be tenants. It's actually making the housing situation worse. And you don't have to take my word for it. This is someone who has lived it. He's lived it. It's lived experience. He knows what he's talking about. It's not just his opinion. It's not just his philosophy. It's his experience. And as we always said, many of my conferences heard me say, and they've said, many of the things we've done here, whether it's housing, healthcare, criminal justice, we very often leave out people who are in that space who might be able to help us get to a better policy solution. We usually, or the Democrats are very good at only including half of the equation, right? We want to talk about better health care. We're only going to talk to patients. We want to talk about criminal justice. We're only going to talk to those who've been incarcerated. We want to talk about housing. We're only going to talk to tenants. That does not yield good policy. And it hasn't in New York State. And it hasn't made housing more affordable. Housing, in spite of all of this, has gotten more expensive. It's gotten further out of reach, and that's a shame. Umberto gives people a roof over their head. That's what he does. That's his business. He provides a roof over people's heads, and yet many on the other side will demonize and tell you that Umberto is part of the problem. We're here to tell you, and he's standing up here with us because we believe he's part of the solution. And there are several bills that my colleagues have that I think are also and should be part of the solution. At this time, I want to call up our ranker on the Housing Committee, someone who has championed a couple pieces of legislation, which I know he's going to talk about on this issue, and that is Senator Jack Martins. Senator.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Great to be with you, and I want to thank the leader for arranging this press conference on such an important issue. When we talk about affordability, you can't speak to affordability and not discuss housing and the high cost of housing throughout the state. You know, I was watching Marsha Kramer a couple of weekends ago, and she was interviewing someone I think we're all well and familiar with, and that was the Deputy Majority Leader, Mike Gianaris. And she was talking to him about this proposed tax increase and whether or not he believed that the increased taxes in New York City would drive more people out of New York State, recognizing that New York State has more people having left New York than any other state in the country. And the response was interesting. He said people aren't leaving New York State because of taxes. He said it's because of housing, and they can't afford the housing costs. Well, let's talk about that for a second. Let's talk about policies that are passed here and have been passed here in Albany that have created the housing crisis and our solutions for them. So I'll talk about rent-stabilized housing. As we all know, rent-stabilized housing is a direct result of state policy that was put in effect over 50 years ago, recognizing that there was an emergency at the time and freezing rents. The one thing that rent stabilization doesn't have is means testing. And so if you go back and look, if we understand, and a lot of people automatically believe that rent-stabilized housing is affordable housing, but it's not. By the city's own survey, and you're all privy to it, and we can certainly make copies available to you. If not, we'll get you the link. Of the 1.2 million rent-stabilized housing units in New York City, over 300,000 units are occupied by people making more than $150,000 a year. Let that sink in for a second. Those are people who would not qualify for affordable housing, either under 421A, certainly not affordable housing set-asides that we have on Long Island, which usually requires a means test anywhere between 60% and 80% of area median income. The area median income of New York City is $100,000. So why do we have hundreds of thousands of units being occupied by people, some of them earning hundreds of thousands of dollars, some in fact earning over $1 million a year, living in rent-stabilized units, paying a few $1,000s, well below market rate? Now we can talk about Mayor Mamdani and his living in a rent-stabilized unit while making $142,000 a year as a legislator. And there are other legislators here in Albany who are making that salary, living in rent-stabilized units. And we can ask ourselves whether that is appropriate. But that's small ball. Let's look at the big picture. You want to make units available now for people and make them available on an affordable basis for those who qualify. You have to open up rent stabilization and make it means tested so that people making $60,000, $70,000 a year have a way to get into an apartment paying $1,000, $1,500 and not the $3,000 and $4,000 that they're paying now. You want to fix affordability in New York City and by extension in New York State, given the number of units that are there, let's start there. It's easy. And there's no excuse, certainly none that they've provided on the other side, there is no excuse for why they would defend people making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, taking advantage of apartments that were meant for people who were qualified. So the bill does something very simple. It requires rent stabilization be means tested. As people pay their taxes every year to New York City, they pay their income taxes. We know exactly how much money they have. They've earned that year. If they make more than whatever that threshold happens to be, my bill sets it at 125% of AMI. It's high, but even at 125% of AMI, it will capture over 300,000 units and allow for those 300,000 units to be made available, not 10 years from now when there's new construction, but over the next year, 2, or maximum 3 years as these leases run out. So a quick solution to a problem, and if they're serious about providing affordability, then let's move rich people out of affordable units that were meant for people who were means tested and weren't meant for people earning hundreds of thousands of dollars. Let's start with that. And so with that, let me turn it over to my colleague, the former ranker on housing, Senator Pam Helming.
Good afternoon, everyone. Before I get into some of our solutions that we have proposed to address affordability, especially around housing, I just wanted to share a couple of stories with you. The first, I was at an event recently in Wayne County, and I met this young couple. They came up to me and asked if they could speak to me for a couple minutes. Great young couple, working very hard. They both have full-time jobs. They're doing an amazing job savings. Their family lives in Wayne County. They want to put down roots there, right? They want to buy a modest starter home. In fact, they got out their cell phones and showed me some of the homes that they're looking at purchasing. But when they look at the purchase price of the home, and then they add on the taxes, and they add on the utility bills, it's out of their reach. They can't make it happen. They feel like New York State, the policies are pushing them out of the state. And then I was in Wegmans the other day doing my grocery shopping, and this woman came up to me and said, "Can I talk to you for a minute? Are you Pam Helming?" And turns out she's a widower. She's lived in her home in the city of Canandaigua for more than 40 years. All she wants to do is to be able to stay in that house where she raised her children with her husband. But she is so afraid right now because, again, with the skyrocketing property taxes and with the utility bills, she doesn't know if she can continue to stay in her own home. To me, that's sad and it's disgusting. She told me that she was on a budget with a utility company. She was paying $650 a month on her budget for her electricity. Her February bill was over $2,000. Why? Why are the Democrats pushing these policies that are creating this fear in people, this uncertainty in people? We already know, we've said this at many prior press conferences, that New York State is one of the least affordable states in the entire nation. We have some of the highest property taxes in all of America, and we have some of the lowest home ownership rates in our nation. Our electricity rates are roughly 50% greater than the national average. And we continue to lose residents, including a good share of our workforce. And they're leaving the states that are they're more affordable. It doesn't matter if, it's examples I shared from upstate New York or whether it's down in New York City. People are experiencing those harsh realities of poor policy decisions that are being dictated by Governor Hochul and the Albany Democrats. These are the decisions that are driving up the taxes, the energy costs, and the price of housing. But those of us who are standing here, our entire Senate Republican conference, we have put real solutions on the table to make housing more affordable and to lower those tax bills and those utility costs. And these aren't policies that we just dreamed up overnight. We've been championing these policies for years now. Just to highlight a few of those policies for you, they include a targeted property tax credit to help first-time homebuyers finally achieve the American dream. and legislation to help people keep their homes, to be able to stay in their homes by putting an end to the drastic property assessment spikes when someone makes a basic repair or an improvement to their home. And to help increase housing stock and lower construction costs, we have a tax incentive for manufactured housing developers to build attainable homes in rural areas. And I'm glad to see Governor Hochul has picked up on the importance of that. We also have a robust plan to streamline the permitting process so housing projects move forward instead of sitting for years while climbing costs. You know, I'll tell you real quickly too, I also have a small local developer, residential builder in my district. He's in the Rochester area. Do you know that he's made the decision to stop building in New York State just because of our regulatory process, how long it takes, and how it increases the cost? You know where he's building right now? Outside of Philadelphia. Isn't that, it's sad. We also have proposals that would allow compliance with the more affordable 2020 Energy Code and repealing the costly all-electric mandates. That's one of the things that is really driving builders to the edge in our state. And you've heard us talk about this before, and I believe Senator Walczak's going to talk about it in a little bit more detail, but we have a plan to return billions of ratepayer dollars that are sitting in unused climate funds directly to the utility customers. They paid for it, they should get it back. But the bottom line is very simple. We have solutions. And now if the governor and the Democrats here in the legislature, if they're serious about affordability, they need to do more than just talk about it. They need to show some action. They need to put people first, like that widower that I mentioned, or that young couple, or the small businesses who are being squeezed out. They need to stop defending all of their bad policies. They need to set aside their politics, and they need to start implementing the people-first policies that we've put forward. I thank you for your time today, and at this time, it is my absolute privilege to introduce to you Humberto Lopez. He's the president of the Gotham Housing Alliance, and he, as Leader Ort said, is just an amazing asset to the state of New York in what he does to invest in our communities, especially in New York City, where we have so many housing struggles. Humberto?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for having me. It's okay, don't worry about it. It's Humberto Lopes. I did start Gotham Housing Alliance a few months ago, but let me go backwards a little bit, just for everyone to clear the air on certain things. I've been around in this business for 45 years. My parents were immigrants from the 1950s when they came here. I did buy my first piece of property when I was 19, 20 years old. I started something that was crazy. And when I bought my first piece of property, it was 14% interest. Imagine that, 14% interest back then, I bought it. And it was still something incredible for me to keep on going because my father passed away, I was 9 years old. I didn't look at any things, and I was born and raised in Red Hook, which today I own 50% of that neighborhood is basically owned by me. I developed that neighborhood, right? I brought it back to what it is today, where you gotta wait online to, what do you call, Jesus Christ, this doesn't stop, okay. That's a blooper, I guess you guys got a blooper here. Take this phone, Joe, and shut it off. Look at that. I forgot to shut my phone, sorry. But getting back to that, IKEA is there now, the basic school, everything that I brought back many years ago, where I first started there, building and buying, everybody left the neighborhood. We lost that touch. We lost the touch of what it is to become a small business, a mom and pop neighborhood, where you can get your coffee and your pizza and your restaurants. We're losing the touch to that. Getting back to the American dream, I was speaking at a college and another platform, and I asked them to raise their hand. Anyone here at 25 own a home? Nobody raised their hand. At 30, 40, it was at 50 years old when people started raising their hands that they first bought their homes. That's a disgrace. It doesn't make sense. Going back to unaffordable, that we use that word so much, unaffordable, but we raise all the taxes. 8 years in a row, I got my property taxes. I got a 3-family building that I built in Red Hook. I'm also a builder. I built a bunch of them, 3-family, because I wanted to be as the neighborhood. They were the same height. I said, let me fit into the neighborhood, not be out of the neighborhood, building a big building, which I have nothing against. That property tax, the first year I built that building, which is a 3-family, was $26,000. It discouraged me, Okay? If you know my videos, I'm being polite. So it discouraged me, but I still kept on going. 6 years later, that building is $35,000 now a year for property tax. A 3-family in Red Hook? Where do you think it stops? I got grocery stores in Red Hook that the guy's paying me $5,000 a month in rent, and he pays me $7,000 a quarter for property tax. Where do you think he gets the money? Where do you think the ripple effect goes? I hand him the bill, because he's a triple net tenant. I got factories in Red Hook, factories, that are now I'm paying, Jesus Christ, it's like $360,000 now a year in property tax. Where do you think the bill goes? Now I got to split it up with the tenants. I got one guy paying me $28,000 every 6 months. I got another guy paying $40,000 on property tax. You can scream all you want, but if you don't start from the top and change what we're doing, this is 8 years in a row already raising property taxes. You think about unaffordable? Wait until this year, the assessments that I got. I got one property tax, which is a private school, yes. It's raising up $63,000. Where do you think that school is going to get that money? The tuitions. That school's not going to be affordable anymore because now the tuitions got to go up. So the whole idea of throwing that word around, unaffordable, and passing and kicking the can down the road ran out. There's no more road. It's done. So what do you think you're going to do? You're going to go to the 1-families and the 2-family houses. They got to get their taxes raised. This becomes a madness. Passing laws in 2019 where now you freeze, where we can't renovate these apartments. Let me jump into that topic. I got warehouse apartments myself. I closed them down. I don't care. Why would I take an apartment that's paying me $1,200 a month, spend $60,000 in that apartment, and get a $30 increase? Any of you guys would do that? I did one for $8,000, and I got a $30 increase, right? A $30 increase, I'm not doing the math too good, but 30 into 8,000, it's 18 years I got to wait for 8,000. Any of you guys got 8,000 to stick over here for 18 years and don't see your return back? We have to stop this madness. And the guy with the magic wand in the City Hall thinks that he wants to freeze the rents now. Last year, the property tax went up 15%. I got a 3% increase. Thank you, Lord. So I lost 12%. This year, that same building is going to go up 18%, and he wants to freeze the rents. What's going to happen? The city and the state are going to be more in the sense of landlords, because we're going to give up at a certain point, and there'll be no longer a mom and pop small business anymore. Does anyone understand that real estate is a business? I'm pretty sure you don't touch Amazon and Costco. Imagine you guys go to Costco and say, hey, Costco, no more private membership. You need to have the public go in there. What do you think Costco will do to you guys, to the politicians here? They'll laugh at you, right? So why is it always the landlords and the property owners and the small businesses getting crapped on? We get the abuse, right? So now it's time for me to change the tables here, and things have to start changing. Because there's going to be more and more landlords like me and property owners and small businesses that we're going to join together. That's why I formed Gotham Housing Alliance. For people to understand, we need to have a voice here now. We need to speak up and say, hey, that don't work on that side. You got to look on this side now. Because the minute you stop me from building and you stop me from fixing these buildings, housing gets shortage. And that's when you become more shortage and less places to live, less commercial buildings, less residential, less industrial buildings. Why don't we bring those things back? Why don't we help New York come back on their feet? Does anybody think of doing that? Getting businesses back? I was in conferences in Vegas and all over the place. Nobody wants to come here. Even a chicken store said, nah, I'm not going there. Why would I even sell chicken there? I don't want to be there. I don't like the regulations and all the rules. I got restaurants that are killed with all the stupid things that they got to go through, and then you tax the hell out of them. After a certain time, how much am I going to pay for the chicken parmesan? After a while, what do you think I'm going to pay, $50 for this? How much am I going to pay McDonald's for a Big Mac? It's got to stop. You have to understand what is going on. And people do not realize this. You don't think because it doesn't affect you. But when you live in that neighborhood and you go to that grocery store to buy that milk and everything else, and you realize you can't buy that grocery, and you went out of that grocery store with a little bag and you got $100, you look at the bag, holy crap, what the hell did I buy here for $100? See, we need to stop that, because thinking unaffordable and not doing nothing for it, where are we at? It's a good word, it's unaffordable. It sounds good. But at the end of the day, you don't break it down, because I pass my bills down to who? My tenants. I got tenants paying me so much money in property tax. It's unfair. This may, again, if the assessments go through, I got buildings going up so much that I got to go to all these tenants starting, because I have to allow them by law, 3 months or 2 months ahead to let them know, your rent is going to go up. So if they're paying me already $1,500, those I can't do because that's the magic wand. He wants to freeze that. But everyone else in the free market, their rents are going to go up. Everything that you think you're doing is in the opposite. Totally opposite. And the 2019 law, we can fix a lot of these problems. If you're allowed to modify that or change that law that the state did to hurt all the landlords and that nobody fought for it, I'm going to fight to change that. Because we can put, within less than a year, I would predict, less than a year, we can put 50 to 70,000 apartments back on the market without using taxpayers' money. How about that? The landlords will pick up the tab, we'll fix the buildings, but allow us to get that one shot to come up to market value. It's only fair. And we could put so many apartments in less than 1 year, you can't build fast enough to catch up to what I'm doing. You will not have you won't have the manpower to build enough apartments, enough buildings to get that number out of the way. Remember, they're renovations. So if you put all these apartments back on the market, we now flood the market with so many apartments, what happens? The rents go down because there's too many. You can pick and choose. And if we stop this property tax increase and slow that down and bring in new businesses that would make it feasible, loving like Florida's doing and Texas is doing. They're bringing people in and they're helping them. We're doing the opposite. Every time this man gets on TV, it scares the shit out of so many people, it's not funny anymore. You scare people, fear. I'm in different states and they don't even want to look at me. They say, HL, thank you, I'm going this way. Because they don't want to be there. You don't want, who wants to come to New York? What business wants, in their right mind, wants to come here? Nobody. It's a sad fight for me. So I need people to understand, we must not just talk. Actions will always speak louder than words. Since I was a little boy, I was told that. The more you do this, don't mean nothing. Let's change the things and change the way we think. I want to help landlords, yes. But who do I help first is the landlords. Because if I get the landlords back on their feet, who do they help? The tenants. Who is it that you can have a choice where you want to live, and you can walk up a block, and there's so many apartments available at an affordable rate and affordable rent that we can bring down things. Is anyone thinking of that? And why is only the rent-stabilized people, and nothing against them, because I got quite a few of those buildings myself, that I don't even understand. Some of them living in there, making $150,000 a year, and giving me $1,300, $1,600? Shit, that bothers the hell out of me. No one governs that to say, hey, you're making too much money. You don't belong in that apartment. You have no right to be in that apartment. I'll find him a $4,000 apartment where he can afford. How about that? I'll bring you to another neighborhood. You pay the $4,000 because you can afford it. That's the right way of doing things. You can kick that can down the road. It's not going to mean anything. We must change the way we think. We must understand and go to the neighborhoods. Go to the mom and pop neighborhoods and see what's going on. Because if you don't see it for yourself, you're not going to understand it. You're not going to understand the suffering that we have to do and what we get squeezed. There's nothing left here. There's nothing else that I can do in what we're doing. And I'm here today to make a change and for people to understand what I feel. Yes, I'm first generation of wealth, but I made the wealth. I made my hardness. I woke up in the morning and changed my life and made a difference. So those rewards are mine, not the government's. The government didn't become my partner every 6 months, every 8 months, every year to change a new law and impose things on me and force me to do things and pay for things with this nonsense of energy. I got a building I got to build up in Carroll Gardens, small 4-story building. I changed the plan because the retail store on the bottom couldn't work. Am I going too fast here? No?
Too fast.
Too faster? No. Just to give you an example. Carroll Gardens, 4-story building. I put it to change. I made an amendment on the plans. I don't want the store there. It's no business anymore. It doesn't bring me enough money. I said, the hell with it. Take it out. Make it a 3-bedroom apartment. Got the plans back 5 months later, and they took all my gas out. What the hell is that? What are you guys thinking? The neighbor don't have enough power now to bring it down to the neighbor. They got to go get four-phase and get electricity from other places and bring it down to this neighborhood. Does anybody stop and think the ripple effects of what happens to people? I want to build this building. It's on my shelf. I just left it there. Because after a while, I'm saying, I got to change the gas stove, the stoves, the appliances, the heating system. Imagine right now what that bill be for electric right now. It's thousands of dollars a month when you can have a gas and a light, and it's easy and it's inexpensive. What's the fear of gas? Can anybody in this room tell me why do we fear gas? Because in all these years, it's no different than driving a car. Whatever accidents happen when they do a statistic of accidents, no, there is really very little to slim to none. But you got to feel the pain that I have, even building this building now. I don't want to put it up right now because the lumberyard is paying hundreds of thousands of dollars in property tax and all his fees. Where do you think he passes it? When you have the material, I need material to build. So do you understand what I'm feeling now? I hope I said enough, and I hope I didn't go too fast, and I didn't curse, so that's pretty good.
Were you there?
Oh, it's this much stuff. Yeah, hey, you know what I mean? But anyone here have any questions for me?
No.
Because I'll stay here all day and rip your new one.
Okay, well, Senator Walczak, good luck following that up.
I don't know how you're gonna do that one, but it'll be all right.
Senator Walczak is our next speaker, also on the Energy Committee. Housing too? Housing too, right? So he's going to talk about a couple of bills that he sponsors that also will sort of tie a little bit of a bow on this, and then we'll close it out with some questions after that. So I want to introduce Senator Mark Walczak.
I know that applause is for our last speaker and not for me. And now I fully understand why the housing chair loaded up the room and didn't want to give you a full time to say your piece and explain to the Housing Committee in the New York State Senate exactly what it's like to be a landlord in New York City. So thank you for joining us here today to explain in full color all that you're going through. I recently had a Central New York affordability roundtable. And out of all of the issues of affordability, I assumed that the conversation would immediately go to the high cost of electricity and utility bills. It actually converted pretty quickly from every industry that we heard around the table to housing costs. I had a couple of realtors and a builder at the table, but literally every other industry represented talked about housing cost and affordability for their employees, housing costs and affordability for themselves. The realtors in Central New York have only 3 months of inventory right now. They talked about how that is in record low. Nothing is moving in the market. And when you look at the numbers, the median sale price in January of 2024 of a single-family home was $415,000 high. January 2025, $445,000 and skyrocketing into this year, continually increasing by 7-8% per month in some regions in this state. The median home price for a new single-family home statewide is $576,000. The average first-time home buyer, as you pointed out when you asked the questions in that room, the average age is 41 years old in New York State. So we listened at the affordability roundtable to a builder, Dan Barnaba, who has been building homes in Central New York for a long time. And he said, look, I got to get the record straight here. A new home in New York is a luxury item. This is no longer an item that the middle class can attain, certainly nothing for the struggling working poor in New York State. The dream of home ownership, a new home, is only a luxury item. Another developer explained this in a little bit better color. He said, I had set out to make an affordable new home. Talking to your constituent from the Finger Lakes, he talked about the aging population, looking for another option. I want to avoid that large utility bill and maybe move into a ranch-style home, something a little bit smaller, something to downsize to. And so this developer went out and worked in the community of Jordan to try and parcel on smaller lots, smaller homes. He had to bring the square footage down to 600 square feet for these tiny, tiny homes just to get under $300,000 for these new homes. So clearly, it's too expensive to build a home in New York State. But luckily, we have Senator Mario Matero, who has some great solutions that I am proud to co-sponsor. So one bill, S8621, will take us back to the 2020 Energy Code. That will save at least $7,400 on the initial price of that building, but probably a lot more. And he also has Senate Bill 1167. This bill, we know the governor punted, probably because it's a campaign year, on the All-Electric Buildings Act. This bill repeals that act entirely. Another builder from the North Country recently told me when I was talking to him about the All-Electric Buildings Act, he said, well, yeah, you can build an electric home. It is a lot more expensive. You're talking about adding $20,000 to $30,000 on just the asking price of that home, just greatly inflating the cost. But as we're talking about a new home as a luxury item, he said this. He said, but I can't sell somebody a building that they don't want to buy. People want to have affordability. They want to have energy options. They want to have a home, and it's part of the American dream to own one. Albany has passed policy after policy in the egregious All-Electric Buildings Act to snuff out that American dream for so many New Yorkers. And I'm proud to stand on the team here that is looking for real solutions to make a more affordable New York. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Senator. I do want to thank my colleagues, Senator Martin, Senator Helming, Senator Walczak. I think did a great job articulating in different ways what this conference stands for when we talk about housing. I want to just close. So first of all, I want to thank Umberto. It needs to be said, and this isn't me. It needs to be said because it is a fact, and I know you all are in the business of covering facts. This conference did oppose all these things that we're talking about. This didn't, Umberto's he's not a political guy, he's a businessman. But I want to make it clear, everything that he said is happening. People in this room, standing with me, said would happen. We debated these bills on the floor, laid them aside, debated them in committee, went out and around the state and said these things would drive up costs. They would drive up rents, drive up people's taxes, which drives up your mortgage. The building codes, adding sprinkler systems to townhouses that do not need them, will drive up the cost of construction, which will be paid by the person building the home. Costs are passed on. I know some of my anti-capitalist friends don't understand that, or maybe don't even like it. They don't think you should pass that cost on. You should do it just out of the kindness of your heart. People do not go into business because they want to be charitable donations or organizations. They go into business to make a living for their family. They provide a good and a service for someone else, and that's how they make money. This needs to be said, and then I'll take questions. And maybe I shouldn't say it, but I'm going to. So I really think this comes down to a fundamental. We want more housing for people. I want more people in houses in New York. I want to lower costs. This conference wants to lower costs. We want to make building less expensive, thereby creating more stock. As Umberto said, whether it's homes or whether it's apartments, more stock lowers prices, more people then can access those homes, whether you're renting or buying. Because I realize somebody in Brooklyn, maybe they never want to own. Maybe they just want to rent, a cool high-rise or something like that. Obviously, somebody up in Wayne County or my area, it's a different situation. But same principle. But I believe, this conference believes that the market is helping the market do what it does is the best solution to create more housing units, to create roofs over people's heads. My colleagues really, I think, fundamentally don't agree with that. They don't think that an Umberto Lopes really should be in existence. That's what we've come to. Now, it wasn't always that way, but it is that way today. They don't like that he makes money off of providing a home for somebody. They think you have a right to a home. And this is an important distinction. If I went into a restaurant, I don't have a right to the meal at that restaurant unless I can pay for the meal at that restaurant. I don't have a right to it. I don't have a right to ask someone else to buy the food, cook the food, serve the food, and then not pay them for it's a service. It's it's a service. It's not a right. You have the right to free speech. You want to know why? Because we believe that you fundamentally have access to it as a human being in the United States. Nobody built free speech. Nobody put their blood and sweat into growing free speech. So it exists. And in America, we protect it. But a sandwich, a meal, a steak dinner, an apartment is not that. So if you can't afford it, you don't have just some existential right to it. So someone is going to be the property owner. It's going to be the government, or it's going to be Umberto. I'd rather live in one of Umberto's units than I would in NYCHA's units. 100%. Take your pick. That's your option, New Yorkers. The people that are here out there that are dancing around the Capitol, take your pick. You can live in NYCHA or you can live in one of Umberto's units. But you got to pay either which way. And you get what you pay for. This conference wants to make it lower cost so you can afford it. So you can afford the best unit you can pay for. But we need to support small businesses and people who are giving people a roof over their head. He does the thing that they say they want to be done. They don't know how to do it. He's spent a lifetime doing it. And there's a lot of other people just like him right now. But they're not going to be here forever if we keep up what we're doing. And so that's what this conference, there's a real difference. So for people who are marching for housing, we're with you. We want more housing. We just have a better solution to do it than our colleagues on the Democratic side of the aisle, and the proof is in the pudding.